So, my name is Elizabeth Stevens, and I'm an occupational therapist who's lucky enough to work full-time in an outpatient setting with people who live with HIV. It's a hospital called Heartlands Hospital, which is in Birmingham in the UK. And for those who don't know, because why would you, it's in the middle of the UK. It's in the Midlands, about 100 miles from London, which I know is not very far in Canadian terms, but it is in the UK. I'm not actually presenting a true research piece. I'm actually going to just share some real life practice and an analysis of one particular cohort who attend our annual health check clinic. So some general ideas really, and this is not an exhaustive list, of what patients really say to us and what they report in real life. So they talk about all of those things. I won't read them out. But that's assuming people have insight, of course, which obviously not everybody does. But the kinds of things we see here can really truly impact on everyday life. So if you have poor concentration, you potentially stop doing things that require concentration, whether that's reading a book, going to the cinema, and other things, other real life things. Feeling slowed down, patients, just if they recognise what's happening to them when it's a little bit more obvious, they just wonder what the hell is going on, and it's not a very nice feeling. It's quite scary. If you have executive function problems that impact on your planning, your organisation, then it can impact on all kinds of things, from managing your job to managing your finances to things that seem quite simple, like planning and organising that week's shopping, that week's meals. And it can impact on, you can lose a role there. Your partner takes over because it comes easier. And we know that kind of thing impacts on your well-being. I've put problems with reading and writing there. It's not something I commonly see, but too many people have said to me, it's weird, I try and doesn't look the same as it used to, and then I figure it out and it just takes a bit longer. Perhaps it's a processing thing really, but somebody said to me, this is a real quote, I feel dyslexic. That's new. I never used to feel that way. And the memory problems are there in the middle, because that's the thing that people report the most. That's the thing that people will say, and they don't know it. It's usually a prospective memory problem. So remember to do something, which if it's taking your antiretrovirals or coming to your appointment to get your new prescription, is really jolly important. The last thing to say about these things is, of course, they may not be symptoms of hand, and that's up to us as a team to tease that out. But if it's related to anxiety, to depression, to sleep deprivation, whatever it might be, the occupational therapist is still really very much in a position to help figure out strategies to help with these things. A little tiny bit about mood. We know that depression or anxiety can really masquerade. It can really look like hand. People come in, perhaps they've read about it, I don't know, and they go, oh my God, my memory's terrible, I've got a dementia, what's wrong with me? And actually they're just terribly anxious, and they're attaching an importance to when they realise they've forgotten something, which we all do, I constantly do it, and they realise it and they go, oh, that must mean this, and I must, that must be bad, and actually it's just normal. And when you give them intervention, which is what I spend a lot of my time doing, stress management, anxiety management, relaxation, assertiveness training, it's just not a problem anymore. You just say, oh, by the way, how's the memory? Oh no, it doesn't matter anymore, and so that's brilliant. So it's not hand in those instances. But of course, having hand is not a fun thing, and that can obviously cause anxiety and stress in and of itself. So the mood side is just really important, and those are the kinds of things I've mentioned. And I'm going to draw your attention to my lower orange cloud, which as an OT, we're obviously interested in occupational re-engagement, both as a medium for improving mood and of course the symptoms of hand. So actual strategies, memory strategies. So it depends who you are, it depends on your own context. Many of them are just really simple, and again, not an exhaustive list, but things I'm sure you all see in your practice. But whether it's setting an alarm, which can work, some people hate it, but it can work. whether it's just building in a proper routine, it's habituation, whether it's making sure someone's got a keyring pill holder so that when their day is different to the day they would normally have, they don't miss their pills, because life happens, and why should you say, oh, I can't go to the pub after work because I've got to go home and have my dinner and take my pills, or visual prompts, whatever it might be. I'm getting a 5-minute warning, so I'm going to have to hurry up. So I'm going to talk about the annual health check clinic, which I can't tell you loads about. You can ask me afterwards. I met Kelly last year in Manchester and talked about the first 131 patients we'd seen. It was fortnightly clinic at the time, and we were using the hospital anxiety and depression scale and the international HIV dementia scale just as screens to see if we needed to further assess, to find out who needed the intervention. Here in June, we're up to 211 patients, and it's now a weekly clinic. And I've outrageously changed, the cut-off that I use for the international HIV dementia scale to 9. The cohort of that clinic, I'll talk a bit more about that. The cohort of that clinic is a quarter female, 3/4 male, and the average age is about 43. We've got a real big age range there, and 21% of those people in that clinic are 50 and over. There's the ethnic background, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but you can see we've got the majority Caucasian and 31% Black African, with a smattering of people from other places. And looking at real life, out of the 211 people, just over half qualify for some kind of follow-up, which is just too much work. And that's a real life thing. That's taking the people who I used 10 on the International HIV Dementia Scale to pick up for further assessment, as well as the people that were in the 9 category. And it could also, those are also mood pickups on the HADs. There's the distribution of each of those diamonds is a person. We have one outlier who scored 2 that you can see down at the bottom, but everybody else, you can see the mode there is 11. Most people scored 11. But if we, oh, sorry, I've lost my place slightly. I'm just going to, yes. So just to kind of illustrate really, that when I was using 10, it was just far too sensitive. It was picking up just under half. It was 45% of people I was picking up as, I need to assess you further to see if you really do have hand or some kind of problem. And what I don't have here to show you, but I can do in the future, is the results of those further assessments. And so many people just came and I assessed them and they were fine, and I'd freak them out for no reason. And it was a lot of time wasted, and I needed to focus my time. I don't have infinite time. So 9 was much better. It was less sensitive, in my opinion, in a good way. And I picked up, instead of picking up 95 people, if you look across the whole cohort, if you apply 9 instead of 10, I was picking up way less, 23% of people, 49 people this time. So it really meant I could focus my time and my resource. I will just say about that, though, that if somebody scored 10 or 9 and over, but they needed further intervention, clearly I didn't rule them out. I'm not tied to it in that sense. It's interesting because the average score out of everybody is 10.2. And if the cut-off's 10, I'm obviously going to pick up half of people. So that's why I changed it to 9. The other thing was really looking at the ethnic origin and the age of the people I was picking up. And in short, just to show you this short table and only look at the orange squares, the people in my clinic, the Black African cohort in the clinic, their average score was below 10. The Caucasian people, their average score was above, and the people from other ethnic backgrounds was dead on 10, if you just mean the thing. So I was picking up basically 49% of my Black African cohort and 50% of my other ethnic origins cohort, and only 35% of my Caucasian cohort. And there's something there that just doesn't really work. There's only 31% Black African cohort in the whole of the clinic, and then to suddenly be picking up that many more, it just isn't quite right, and was making me think. So I had a bit of a check, and I thought, oh, anecdotally, I've changed from 10 to 9. I'll pick up fewer Black African patients, but it's not true. The proportion, as shown by my pie charts, it was just the same proportion. So I wasn't picking up fewer people, and I figured that either there's something inherent about the International HIV Dementia Scale, even though it's international, that wasn't really working culturally for my Black African patients, or there was genuinely a bigger incidence, my time's up, but I'll be 2 seconds, in my Black African cohort. I don't know the answer to that, but I suspect strongly that it's just so culturally biased towards the elements of it, a lot about being timed. And I just think culturally, Caucasian people get that, and culturally, the Black African people just don't. That's just not how they're brought up. And so I think it's over-identifying people. So I'll skip over this, and just to say about my 50s and over is that the average total score for those 50 and over was 9.4. It's only a point, but the average total score for those 49 and under was 10.4. And I think that's a big difference, really. And when you look at the people I picked up for neurocognitive follow-up who qualified, it brought that average down to 8 and then 9.2. So I think that perhaps there is something, whether it's just the ageing process or whether, as I show you here, it's about the length of diagnosis, which was longer in my 50 and over cohort. I don't know the answer. But basically, the annual health check means I pick up people that wouldn't have been referred to me otherwise, which is brilliant. Bringing it down to 9 meant I wasted a lot less time and focused on those most in need. Lowering the IHDS cut-off score has not changed the proportion of Black African patients that I see, which was a massive surprise, but that I need to look into more. And those aged over 50 have lower IHDS scores, and I need to really look at that work and see, do they really have more functional problems? But the most important aspect for me is that we use functional intervention once we've assessed. There's no point assessing unless you're going to do something about it, in my opinion. And I'm going to continue to collect the data, and I need to look at the assessment outcomes to really give a true flavour of what all this means. And I was going to look at Nadia CD4 as well. And then I have references, 2 pages of them. Thank you.